Is Councilwoman Debi Rose, class of 1969, escorted by Quadribello, junior student leader. Councilwoman Debi Rose holds the distinction for being the first African American from Staten Island elected to the New York City Council. Debi has been a long-time community activist and someone who has a great love for Staten Island. She was elected to represent the 49th Council District seat in 2009. In addition, she sits on the Council's Education, Health, Higher Education, Transportation, Aging, and Oversight and Investigations Committees. She has obtained funds to improve education for schools, to put funds in the budget for Staten Island cultural institutions, and to improve roadways. She also has a strong advocate for keeping the city's public libraries open on weekends. Councilwoman Rose has worked tirelessly to put funds back in the budget to stop the closing of firehouses, including our very own engine company 157 right down the street from here. She worked to get legislation passed that mandates signage to redirect disabled citizens to accessible routes and facilities in all buildings in the city. She has brought the Cure Violence Anti-Gun Initiative to Staten Island. In recognition for all of her outstanding contributions in making Staten Island a better place to live and for her dedicated service to help those most in need throughout Staten Island, Councilwoman Rose has been honored for selection into the Port Richmond High School Hall of Fame.
Thank you. David, my nightmare is having to follow a superstar. So I say, good afternoon, and thank you for having me here today. Thank you, Principal Gannon, and the Induction Committee for this recognition, and the Alumni Society. I am honored to be back at my alma mater with my fellow inductees, the talented musician David Johansen, the class of 1967, the retired Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Frank Ontario, and the longtime educator and basketball coach Lou Trella, and our softball standout Shannon Payne, class of 1996. Some of you made me feel good because some of you have been here long before me. And I say congratulations to each of you. And I'm thankful for this esteemed honor to be inducted into the Port Richmond High School Hall of Fame. Thank you for the quality education which prepared me for a lifetime of learning. I believe that our collective experiences contribute to the totality of our being, making us who we are. I was blessed to have a strong base of support who nurtured what nature had bestowed upon me, a collective of sorts, comprised of my mom and dad, whose DNA was the genesis of my evolution, and the beginning of my love for learning, and my family members, especially Uncle Charlie, who, had it not been for him, I would not have had a social life. Taking the place of a big brother I never had, he was my chaperone and protector, and I couldn't go anywhere unless he went. My sister and the Port Richmond cheerleader, who was my biggest cheerleader, always supportive and encouraging me to pursue my goals. And my friends here at Port, yeah, that's what we called it, who enriched my daily experiences and often provided comic relief. And last but not least, the teachers and the administration who opened up to me the portals of learning and dared me to jump through. So to the collective, I say thank you, and I hope I made you proud. My snapshot of high school in the 60s was a place where we learned algebra. Well, some of us did. But I'll tell you about that a little later. Spanish, biology, English, and all of the subjects that were required to graduate in New York State. High school was where I experienced the rigor of mastering subject content in order to pass the New York State Regents, and the angst and anxiety associated with passing the New York State Regents. And we had a dress code then, and literally girls had to wear dresses, unless there was a blizzard. And no, they didn't close schools for snowstorms. High school was a panoply of paranoia, consumed by thoughts that the whole world and it would come to an end if, you can fill in the blank, didn't speak to you in the cafeteria that day. Or the excitement of going to the basketball game on Friday night and hanging out at Angelina's Pizza Shop after the game and hoping that that certain player acknowledged you. Also learning the importance of tenacity and tolerance. I attended high school in the turbulent 60s, a decade during which we witnessed the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy and of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King. And consequently, we were thrust into the fight for equality and justice, which are still guiding principles for me. So I say thank you to Port Richmond High School for the contributions you made in shaping me and making me who I am, and for the lessons learned. It is so good to be back here. Since I left Port Richmond High School, I spent much of my career in positions of leadership. I spent 28 years as a member of Community Board 1. I served on the Community School Board for 13 years. And since 2009, I have been proud to represent the North Shore of Staten Island on the New York City Council. But what you may not know is that my very first foray into leadership was right here at Port Richmond High School. My first campaign was here in these halls when I was elected senior class vice president. I was among the first African Americans to serve in a leadership position here. And years later, I became Staten Island's first African American elected official. I have a lot of important memories from here, going to Steckman's after sporting events, taking algebra so many times that my math teacher said, just pass the geometry, and just said, we'll give you the algebra. And in an era where most women receive training for secretarial jobs, my parents had stressed the importance of going to college and pursuing my dreams. And Mr. Tobin, I think I know about that program change that I didn't get. And I knew that I didn't want to be placed in the clerical track because I wanted to be a teacher. So when I was assigned to take typing and stenography, I insisted on taking Latin instead. My mom had to come here in person to change my classes so that I could take Latin with Mr. Driscoll, the best Latin teacher ever, because I knew Latin would be useful as I embarked upon my college career, and it was. But I must admit that I should have taken typing and stenography also, because to this day, I still type with 2 fingers, and it takes me a very long time to type up even a short speech like this. I also learned some very serious life lessons here that have carried with me into my career. I was a student here when Martin Luther King was shot. I remember sitting at home in the kitchen with my parents when we heard the tragic news. Those were some difficult years in our nation's history. Dr. King was a great exemplar of tenacity, and his work shaped my outlook on life. Years later, I successfully led the naming of the stretch of 440 right outside of our window here after the great civil rights leader. In the position of class leadership here, I learned important skills, like how to work with diverse groups of people, bringing them together on common goals. We worked on a wide range of issues, from organizing the senior prom to ensuring that Black Studies was incorporated into the curriculum. Today, I represent the most diverse section of Staten Island, from Rosebank to Arlington, and all the neighborhoods in between. And it's the most diverse district in New York City. And I say that with pride and affection. Running for office, we've brought large coalitions of diverse voters together to support my run. If you look at the New York Wheel and the Empire Outlets, that was a collaborative effort that we had to put together. We pulled together members of the community, union, and developers to ensure that the project would benefit all Staten Islanders. But most importantly, I learned that education was the most important thing. Throughout my career, I have remained committed to ensuring that educational opportunities for all students are ensured. And as the executive director of the Liberty Partnership Program, I work with at-risk youth in school. And today, as a council member, I'm proud to say we've pushed universal preschool, and we're working toward building an academic complex from pre-K 14 at the former Staten Island Hospital site. So again, I want to thank you for inducting me into the Hall of Fame, but also for giving me the opportunity to step back and reflect. High school years were formative, but when you're in high school, you really don't realize that you're learning important life lessons. And it was not until years ago that I realized just how important these years were and how instrumental they were in making me who I am. And so I thank the committee and Mr. Gannon for bestowing this honor upon me. Thank you. And I had hoped they didn't find that high school picture.